We want to welcome Isabel and Jamie. Thank you all for coming. If you want to talk a little bit about yourselves, it's fine, and we'll leave it up to you. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Isabel Maria, and I am with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging. I'm a case manager and specifically work on cases with adults with dementia, either that live alone or I work with the caregivers of those who are caring for their loved ones with dementia. And I do options counseling, work with our partners in the Alzheimer's Association, and James L. West and other organizations that you'll hear about today.
All right, my name is Jamie Harwell, and I'm also with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging. I've been with the agency since June, so I'm new to the agency, but I'm not new to the area and the field. But I am actually the grant coordinator. So this dementia-friendly North Central Texas Dementia Capable, and we'll talk about it. It's a federally funded grant that we received, and I am responsible for some of the trainings, and also I make sure that the grant is running okay, and that all of our outcomes are delivered and all that. So, but we're happy to be here tonight with you all, and we're going to be sharing just some information about the grant, some information about dementia, and in the middle of our PowerPoint presentation, we'll have a Dementia Live experience upstairs, so it's very interactive. Okay, and then once everything's done, I'll have a post-test for you to complete, and it's a lot shorter. It's only 4 questions, so okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so again, the grant is the program is called Dementia Friendly North Central East Texas, and I'm going to go. So what we're going to be doing with you this evening, we're going to be sharing information about the new program for people with memory loss, caregivers, and professionals. Let you experience dementia. Discuss what dementia is, including signs and symptoms, and what it is not. Provide some tips in case someone may be dealing with dementia. Okay. So what is Dementia Friendly North Central Texas, East Texas? It's a funded program by the Administration for Community Living to expand services for people with dementia and family caregivers to the greater Metroplex and East Texas. We partner with 8 nonprofit partner agencies, including the Alzheimer's Association, which, they're pretty well known in the community and all over. And James L. West, which is a care facility in downtown Fort Worth. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're a pretty huge living community, but also they do lots and lots of trainings as well. And we're actually, Dementia Live we were actually trained by James L. West to do Dementia Live. Dementia Friendly Fort Worth and the North Central Texas Council of Governments, which is who we work for. All services that we provide are free of charge, but you do have to qualify, and we'll discuss that in the presentation. Okay. So what's available to people with memory loss? We have home-delivered meals through Meals on Wheels of Tarrant County, temporary in-home services through the Tarrant Area Agency on Aging, funded by United Way. So, we work for the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, which they cover the 14-county area, not except for Dallas and Tarrant. So, the Area Agency on Aging in Tarrant County provide very similar services to what we provide. That's minor home repairs, medical equipment, supplies, in-home services, help arranging on ongoing services. So if you're needing ongoing services with, if you're caring for a loved one or you live alone. Okay. What's available to family caregivers? We have REACH, which is done through the Alzheimer's Association, and that is someone that since y'all are in Tarrant County, also the REACH expands. Does REACH expand? outside of?
They do.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. So the REACH program is actually a counseling program that counselors actually go to the caregiver and meet with them one-on-one, and they provide free counseling services. It's not just, I wouldn't say just counseling. It's a evidence-based program, and they go into that caregiver, and they actually talk to that caregiver to figure out, okay, what is their situation, what are their needs are. They have a personalized packet of information that is made just for them. So if they have a family member that really deals are having difficulties, say for example with wandering, they get a lot of information on, okay, what do I do with my mother or dad when they wander? So that's just an example. Or if the caregiver's dealing with depression, things like that, it's very adapted to that person's needs. It's a great program if you're eligible for it. So, but it also we have Dementia Live, which you're going to experience that today. It's an incredible program, and y'all are our third or fourth group to do Dementia Live. So we're excited that you're going to be able to do that tonight with us. Compassionate Touch, which is another free program through James L. West, and that is just another evidence-based, one-on-one counseling support program for caregivers. Okay. Okay, so connecting you with resources. So we actually have a link for resources available to you. You can click on that, and we actually have a hard copy available tonight for you. The Aging and Disability Resource Center you can actually call this number. It's an 855 number, but basically you can call, you can be in any zip code, and you put it in Texas, and you put in your zip code, and it'll direct you to the Aging and Disability Resource Center closest to your zip code. It's very similar to 211. I don't know if you're familiar with 211, but that's a information and referral line. But this, specifically with Aging and Disability Resource Centers, is they are focused on not just here's a phone number and I'm going to send you on your way. They can do that. They will give you information. They'll give you phone numbers and connect you with resources, but they can connect you provide more one-on-one, providing you, walking you through processes that maybe you need help with. Caregiving, it can be anything related to really anything, Medicare, if you have questions about Medicare, Medicaid, long-term care services, it's a really good resource. You can reach out to them. And the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, actually, we have an Aging and Disability Resource Center. So if you call and you are in our zip code or in our area, in our service area, you'd be connected to our ADRC, which is what they call it. So, and then again, the Area Agency on Aging, since you are in Tarrant County, that would be the number you would call up there if you would like, if you need services for your loved one. I worked there for 15 years, and they provide very similar services for caregivers and people who live alone, maybe not only just dealing with dementia, but living alone and may need help in the home. The Alzheimer's Association provides free dementia information, so you can call them and they can provide you with it. They have, I don't know if you've been to their website, but it's just a plethora of information on dementia. So, but you're welcome to call that number, and then we have the copy of the resource list. Now, if you have family members that don't live in Tarrant County, that live in the outside areas, or if you have family members that may not live in the counties that we talk about today, you feel free, to reach out to us, and we can try to connect you with any with agencies that in the area outside of our county to help you with that. So, just to kind of get a feel for the audience, is everybody in Tarrant County? That family members? Okay. All right. I think I just keep going, right?
Yep.
Okay.
What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a slow, fatal disease of the brain affecting 1 in 10 people over the age of 65. No one is immune. The disease comes on gradually as 2 abnormal protein fragments, called plaques and tangles, accumulate in the brain and kill brain cells. They start here in the hippocampus, the part of the brain where memories are first formed. Over many years' time, the plaques and tangles slowly destroy the hippocampus, and it becomes harder and harder to form new memories. Simple recollections from a few hours or days ago that the rest of us might take for granted are just not there. After that, more plaques and tangles spread into different regions of the brain, killing cells and compromising function wherever they go. This spreading around is what causes the different stages of Alzheimer's. From the hippocampus, the disease spreads here to the region of the brain where language is processed. When that happens, it gets tougher and tougher to find the right word. Next, the disease creeps toward the front of the brain, where logical thought takes place. Very gradually, a person begins to lose the ability to solve problems, grasp concepts, and make plans. Next, the plaques and tangles invade the part of the brain where emotions are regulated. When this happens, the patient gradually loses control over moods and feelings. After that, the disease moves to where the brain makes sense of things it sees, hears, and smells. In this stage, Alzheimer's wreaks havoc on a person's senses and can spark hallucinations. Eventually, the plaques and tangles erase a person's oldest and most precious memories, which are stored here in the back of the brain. Near the end, the disease compromises a person's balance and coordination, and in the very last stage, it destroys the part of the brain that regulates breathing and the heart. The progression from mild forgetting to death is slow and steady, and takes place over an average of 8 to 10 years. It is relentless and, for now, incurable. Helping your family, friends, and neighbors to better understand Alzheimer's will reduce stigma, improve care, and even help the fight for a cure. Thanks for helping to do your part. Learn more at www.aboutalz.org.
Share with me, after this experience, how are you feeling? You have this sheet, but these are not the only emotions that you may have experienced. So anyone want to share?
I was bored.
You were bored? Okay.
I was frustrated because I could not hear any. Do I need to use that?
Oh,
yeah, my lunch.
There's one here.
Yeah, I couldn't hear any of the instructions that were given to me to do stuff. That's
You
why
couldn't hear any of the instructions?
No, I couldn't either.
And that's why I was bored.
So you were bored and
I
you were
was-
frustrated.
I wasn't bored though, because I just kept going down and I saw the puzzle and I thought, I love puzzles. I can do puzzles. I can sit right here no matter what anybody else does. And I didn't let anybody
So
else
you
get
didn't know what
near
you
me.
needed to do, but you found something
But
to
I
do.
found something I knew I
It
liked
made
to
sense
do.
to you.
Even though my gloves made it a little harder to put that puzzle together.
Oh, the gloves made it harder. Okay. Interesting. Anyone else?
I was telling my sister-in-law that I was determined.
You were determined. Yes. Yes, you were. You were in my room. You were determined.
I was really trying to hear what you said.
So you were determined and you did do some tasks and you did what you thought. may or may not have been the right thing, but it made sense to you, right? You were trying to make sense of it. Anyone else?
It was practically impossible to get the knots out of the white shoes with the gloves on.
Oh, really? It was impossible with the gloves on, right?
Right. The only thing I heard in the directions were I heard something about a white shirt, but I didn't know what to do with it, so I stuck it on a hanger. And I heard something about tying white shoes, but I didn't know if it was tying or untying, but they were in a knot to begin with, so I undid them and then tied them.
Okay. So you tried your best. Everyone tried their best with what little bit that they heard, or you just found something to do. Anybody kind of just stand around and look around?
That's what I did.
That's what you did? That's what you did?
I just stood around, and I wasn't anxious. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't anything other than I have no idea what to do here.
You kind of
And
shut down, though, because...
I would have asked you, but you'd already told us you were not going to respond. So I thought, she's not going to tell me, so I'll just stand here.
I think that's where the inadequate comes in. Because I was the
okay.
same.
Okay.
I mean, I just walked around and looked at everything, and I watched what everybody else was doing.
Right.
So it made
But-
you feel inadequate.
But I felt very inadequate because I couldn't understand what she told me to do to begin with.
Okay.
That's a good one.
The weird thing for me was hearing all the noise and the sirens and all that was okay, but then towards the end, what came through really loud was something about don't do that or
Like stop or something. Yeah.
like you're doing it wrong or whatever.
Yeah. Those, for me, when I did it, it was the laugh. I don't know if you guys got to the part with the loud laugh, but that one was like, oh my gosh. So why do you think the gloves made it difficult, and what do you think the gloves represent?
Neuropathy,
Neuropathy,
not able to feel, clumsy, swelling, maybe edema.
edema, neuropathy. Also, the loss of fine motor skills. Since the brain is dying, that part of the brain is dying, and they lose fine motor skills before they lose gross motor skills. So they have difficulty with that. How about the glasses?
Glasses didn't bug me so much because my vision's a little wonky anyway. Yeah.
So a lot of, oh, go ahead.
They didn't bother me either.
No? So a lot of people don't know this about dementia, but do this with me. This is like wearing a scuba mask. This is called scuba vision. So get your hands, put them like this, and just look at each other, look around, see what you notice. Try to look out your peripheral vision.
Well, you don't have it.
You don't have it. So this is somebody who's probably not diagnosed with dementia yet. These are early stage dementia vision. And most people are not diagnosed yet, and that is their vision. So now we're gonna do binocular vision. So do this. Let's say you have a stain on your shirt. Look down at your shirt. Can you see? You know, look around, look at your neighbor.
Well, and that's interesting because our dad, he loves doing this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And I know he sees things or doesn't see things that I don't see.
Maybe it helps them focus a little bit more to process. So what it is, it's you have your five senses, and vision's the main one that people with dementia are going to use the most. They're not processing language anymore. So maybe he does that to help him focus more and process what he's seeing. But that is mid-stage dementia. So those are when people usually start getting diagnosed. And that is their vision. So if it... I'm sorry?
The binocular.
The binocular vision, yes. And that's why they may startle easily if you approach them from behind or the side, or if you put a plate of food down in front of them. They're not going to see you putting down a plate of food. If you reach out, you're cold, let me zip up your jacket. They're just being touched all of a sudden. They don't know why. So you might get some challenging behavior from that interaction because they don't know what's going on and they don't see your hands. So That's what we use the glasses for. And then the headphones are really to confuse a healthy brain. It's not exactly what people with dementia hear. However, I will say that because their processing of what they hear is deteriorating, they may hear my voice and the hum of the air conditioner at the same decibel. Or they may hear a police car outside, but they won't know what that is because their brain's not making that connection of that sound is this. Or the sound of your voice is that person, you know? So, but for this case, it was really just meant to confuse us, but that it's not exactly what they hear, but they are confused, you know, by their surroundings and trying to process what their five senses are taking in. So dementia, a lot of people think is, oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So why in care facilities did they put all of the older people in front of a television?
Well, in memory care, or people have different training. It is actually not widely, people are not widely trained on vision or the five senses or the changing brain. People do with the best they can with the training that they're given. But people are not generally trained in that. I do training in that. I train for a care agency for their new hires. And they're all like, oh my gosh, I wish I knew this before. But generally, no, facilities and caregivers are not trained in those type of things. So, yeah. So a lot of people equate dementia to memory loss, but it's more than just that. Dementia is memory loss, yes, but it's also language, problem solving, other thinking, but also the ability to do things for day-to-day life. To be able to shower, they may start by forgetting to shower, or they can get in the shower and they remember to turn on the water, but they don't know what comes next. You know, they don't know to get the soap and wash their body. Or maybe they get that far, but they don't forget to rinse. So it's, and then it also affects, towards the end of the disease, bodily functions. So some people die of pneumonia and that have dementia, but it's because that the flap that moves, whether you're breathing or you're eating or drinking, stops working. So then they get fluid in the lungs. But it is caused by the dementia and the brain not functioning. So I always let people know there's 4 truths about dementia. The first one is at least 2 parts of the brain are dying. The second one is it's progressive. So it's always going to be changing. The chemistry of the brain is always going to be changing. What works in the morning may not work in the evening. They're like us. They get tired throughout the day, right? We're probably not thinking as clearly by the end of the day either.
Is that what they call sundowners?
Yes, that's the term that they use for sundowners, but if you really think about it, they're still people like we are, and by the end of the day, we get pretty tired. We may not want to process so much what's going on, and we might be overwhelmed by the end of the day. I mean, I could say that could happen to any of us, right? So it happens to them too. It's just they're not able to articulate what it is exactly that's bothering them, so it might present in different ways. And so yes, so dementia is, the brain is dying, it is progressive, there's no cure, and there's no way known to prevent it, and the fourth one is it's terminal. And all life is terminal, but that just means someone diagnosed with dementia will have it until the end of life. And I know that Jamie mentioned Alzheimer's, dementia, people use this interchangeably. Dementia is an umbrella term. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. And there's better known dementias would be like Lewy bodies, which usually accompanies Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, and frontotemporal dementia. And then there's actually over 120 kinds of dementia. Some of them can be genetic, some of them can be a virus, some of them are drug and alcohol abuse induced. I had a gentleman that was like 25 years younger than all my memory care residents because he was a bodybuilder and used sports enhancing drugs, and he was mid-stage in his 60s. And then other things like Muhammad Ali had Parkinson's. He was a boxer, so he got repeated hits in the head, so a lot of concussions. So head injuries can also cause dementia. So dementia is not a normal part of aging. And the way that people, I guess, determine whether someone has dementia, they take a baseline and they see the cognitive decline, over the months, over the years. Things start interfering their thought process with their daily lives, unable to prepare meals or get dressed. They might get dressed out of order. They might take the dirty clothes off and put the dirty clothes back on, forgetting that they just took it off. And then it affects the memory, physical health, and their behavior as well. So there's a lot of things that people experience that can be confused for dementia. One thing I could say about dementia is that it is gradual. Usually it's gradual, and it is not sudden. So usually someone, someone in age 60 or over, if they have a sudden change in behavior, they'll usually send them out for a UTI, make sure they don't have an infection. So depression, medication interactions, infection, nutritional deficiencies, stress, people that are diabetic, thyroid problems, those can cause similar symptoms of dementia, but it's not dementia. Once you treat these, then the person is able to go back, the same cognitive state that they were before. I feel like I should pause a little bit because I have the other group of 5 coming up, and I don't want them to miss all of this. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. If your mom has it, would you get it? Because my stepmother had it and died of it, and then my stepsister just died of it this past year. So is it inherited?
I mean, potentially it could be. I don't believe that there's any hard evidence. But they do know that people, like caregivers, that usually want to do everything themselves, don't want to ask for help, so they're under a lot of stress, are at higher risk of developing dementia themselves. So some of the signs and symptoms, again, memory loss that disrupts daily life. This part of the brain that teenagers don't have is, is called the frontal temporal, and it's the last thing that we develop as humans. We develop it about our mid-20s. So dementia, you're kind of regressing in the way we develop, so this is the first thing usually to go in dementia. So that's why you'll see the behavior changes. The disruption of daily life is because they have difficulty starting and sequencing and stopping an activity. They have problems, problem-solving skills are diminished. They have problems completing familiar tasks. They eventually get confused with time or place, so they kind of time travel. They may think that they're younger than they are. And if they think they're younger than they are, they're confused. Why did you move the bathroom? Even though they've lived there for the last 20 years, because in their mind, they're living in the house of their young adulthood or childhood. Trouble understanding visual images or spatial relationships, especially later in disease when they have what we call monocular vision, which is you lose depth perception. They have problems finding words, so processing, anything that they have to process they're gonna find difficulty with. They're good with things that are automatic. They're good with song, they're good with prayer, they're good with poetry, they're good with social chit chat, because you don't have to process any of those things. They misplace things, or they hide things themselves and forget that they hid it. They're not able to retrace their steps and, to remember why did I go into this room? Right? That happens to all of us, and don't worry, that's normal aging. That's normal aging.
I do it now.
Yeah. Poor judgment. So really poor judgment means that they lose safety awareness. Since they only have this limited vision, they keep curiosity a lot longer than they keep safety. So if you think of a young child who's really curious and is going around, doing things that aren't that safe, it's similar to that. They may withdraw because people react to them differently, and because their behavior is changing, or because they can't process, what do you want to eat? That's too much. So they say, I'm not hungry. And then changes in mood and personality.
It's important you give them a choice.
Yes.
Do you want spaghetti or do you want meatloaf? Or,
something where they don't have to process, You don't want to ask a yes or no question if no is not an appropriate answer. So do you want to go outside, but you have to go outside. So you ask them, do you want to go outside? No. Now you're stuck. Instead, you can say, we're going to go outside. Do you want to take a walk or do you want to sit on the bench? Do you want to eat? No. Instead, you can say, we're going to eat. Do you want a sandwich or do you want soup? So things like that. So how dementia might affect a member of the congregation. A longtime member might get lost on their way here. They may get lost while they're here. They may forget who you are. So they're going to overcompensate and say, hey, sweetheart. They have maybe unexplained dents in their car, and someone stops attending church for reasons other than having difficulty getting around. They may forget. So, responding to people with memory loss, you want to encourage them to get evaluated by their doctor if they don't have a diagnosis. You don't want to argue or challenge with someone. It's called reality orientation. You don't want to reorient them. No, I'm not this person. I'm your daughter. You don't want to do things like that because they're not going to see things from your perspective. That is their reality. Realize that the changes in the brain affect their thinking and judgment and actions. And, it's hard, especially if it's family and you have history with them, but you try not to take things personally. And respond. They're going to forget they might forget you, but they're not going to forget how you made them feel. And they're not going to forget how a situation makes them feel. Those feelings stay with them. And saying I'm sorry goes a long way, even if you didn't do anything wrong. But from their perspective, you were trying to do something, or you treated them like a child, and it made them feel less than. And apologies can go a long way. Also, paying compliments and just being upbeat and smiling, and they're going to associate. They may not remember you, but they will associate you with those feel-good feelings. You want to use simple, short sentences because they're not processing language. They're using visual most of all. So you might want to use some homemade sign language like, hey, it's time to eat, or let's go to sleep. Let's wash our hands. You want to make eye contact. You want to reduce distractions since they're having trouble processing their 5 senses. The less stimuli there is, the better. You want to be positive and focused. And let me see. On what remains. So you can use music and rhythm and poetry and prayer and proverbs to your advantage. And then you want to look for resources. If you're caring for someone with dementia, you don't want to do it alone. It takes a village, not just to raise a child. So you want to look for the resources that are out there. There are things, and people may offer help. And if they offer help, take them up on it. I mean, even if you can't reciprocate, because I'm sure there's a time that you have helped people knowing that they wouldn't be able to reciprocate, and now it's just your turn. So if you know anybody in the congregation whose family member has dementia, you want to check on them, see how they're doing. It could be difficult and isolating. They they may be going out less because of the behaviors with the person with dementia, so they're just going to stay in. You want to encourage them to take advantage of these resources that we presented to you today, and just the resources of fellowship. Oh, here's a video about, here's a video that is going to explain the difference between the facts that we retain and the emotions that retain, and how this plays out through the stages of dementia.
Hi, I'd like to explain dementia to you in the way that it was explained to me. I'd like to picture that I'm an 80-year-old woman standing here, and that beside me there is a bookcase that's as tall as I am and is filled with books. Now, each of those books represents a fact or a date or a number or a memory that I've gained in the last 80 years of my life. So right at the top, my most recent memory, so what I had for breakfast, getting dressed this morning. The next shelf down might be things that are a little bit less recent, so maybe my last holiday, what I did at Christmas, maybe the last time you came to visit me. The next shelf down by my shoulders will be my 70s, my 60s, my 50s, my 20s will be down by my knees, and my childhood memories will be all the way down by my feet. So that is the bookcase that makes up me. Now, when I get hit by dementia, what's going to happen is that my bookcase is going to start to rock. And I'm going to start losing those books, starting from the ones on the top, which may explain why my short-term memory is likely to be affected first. So, as my dementia progresses, I might find myself having lost not only the top shelf, but the next one down and the next. I might find myself living in the 1950s. Now, embrace my reality. I go into my kitchen today to make myself a cup of tea. What do you think? Given that I'm expecting a 1950s kitchen, what's a likely accident that I might have? If you've thought putting an electric kettle on a hob, that's absolutely right. Now, as my carer, as my relative, you might be tempted to say, we shouldn't let her make tea anymore, that's really dangerous. But there is a simpler solution, which might be to just change my kettle from an electric one to a whistling kettle, because that's what I'm expecting, and I know how to use that. And I learned how to use a whistling kettle all the way down in my childhood, so that memory is likely to stay with me a lot longer. That's not going to help everybody with dementia, but it might help me at this particular stage. Now, I talked about this one bookcase that's got all these facts and memories and numbers, and that's quite a flimsy bookcase, and when that gets hit by dementia, it rocks a lot. Now, this bookcase is representing a part of my brain called the hippocampus, which is more susceptible to dementia. However, my feelings and my emotions, the things that make me who I am and the reasons why you love me, they're all managed separately by a different part of the brain called the amygdala. And that's all here in a separate bookcase. It's a really strong oak bookcase. And when that gets hit by dementia, it's not going to move very much. Let me explain to you how the two bookcases work together. So when I was a child, I had a teacher. He's on the hippocampus bookcase. He was incredibly inspiring. And the way that he made me feel, inspired, in awe, that is stored in a separate book on my amygdala bookcase. So the teacher is on the hippocampus, but the way I felt, that's going to be managed by the amygdala. Now let's bring it back to today, where I'm the 80-year-old woman. I have dementia. You come to visit me. So that's a fact. That happens here. And we have a blazing row. I'm probably going to feel upset, sad, angry, and that's going to go onto the amygdala in a book here. You might go away thinking, it doesn't really matter. She'll forget that I even came to visit, let alone that we had a row. And you know what? You're probably right. That book will probably go. But what's likely to stay with me are those feelings, those emotions, that anger, and with nothing to relate it to, it might be really confusing for me. But let me leave you with a positive example. Say you come to visit me, and you take me out to the seaside, and we have a great time. So here it is, the seaside, the waves, the great time, the feelings of safety and happiness and love that I feel are held over here in the amygdala. As soon as we get back to my house, I've forgotten where we've been. That book is gone. And you might think, oh, it's just not worth it. Why do I bother? I don't think I'm going to carry on visiting her. But look over here. Those feelings, that safety, that warmth, that's going to stay with me for a lot longer. So I would like to encourage you to continue to visit and to care for the people that you know, relatives, friends who have dementia, and to remember that there is more to the person than the dementia. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. So if you need any more information, or if, is that our number? Yeah, right. So that's our number. We serve the 14 counties. Now, if somebody lives in Tarrant or Dallas County, we can refer them out, but that is the main line that we ask everybody to call. So even if we have a referral from our own counties that we do serve, that's the number we ask them to call, because they will be screened first before. I do not take all dementia cases, because of all the cases that come into the aging department, 50% of them are dementia or memory related, so I cannot possibly do that for 14 counties. I take more severe cases, more mid-stage dementia, than end-stage dementia. So that is the main number we ask, that if you know anybody that lives in other counties, you can give them that number.